Mark Kelly was officially sworn in as the U.S. Senator from Arizona, giving the state 2 Democratic senators for the first time in almost 70 years. In front of the White House at Lafayette Square, where people have gathered awaiting the result of this election. On the night of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing, hundreds of people gathered at the steps of the Supreme Court to pay their respects to her. The Senate Judiciary Committee is expected to vote tomorrow to send Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the full Senate for approval. Viewings will continue till 10 p.m. tonight and tomorrow as well, before Justice Ginsburg is brought to lie in state on Friday. That's how many Arizonans have died of COVID-19. Arizona Senator Martha McSally gave an emotional farewell address on the Senate floor a few days after conceding the race to Mark Kelly. That may be surprising in what was once a reliably red state. They were, as they like to say, over the asteroid with the result. With about 2 weeks to the election and a possible Supreme Court justice confirmation, thousands of people joined the Women's March in Washington. This march usually happens in January, but a sense of urgency brought it to October.
Everything is on the line this November.
And I'm not telling you to vote blue, I'm not telling you to vote red, I'm telling you to vote your conscience, I'm telling you to vote for decency, for empathy.
Organizers said the DC March drew thousands of people like Teal Ramadi, who came from New York for the march.
I just think there's too much at stake to sit home and just yell at the TV, so we wanted to physically come.
It is time to just be shown and everything he stands for.
The DC March was just one of the many events around the country Saturday, including marches in Arizona. Like everything else this year, COVID-19 brought a different look to the march. People were masked, asked to stay distant, and urged not to travel for the march.
The only super spreader in DC is going to be the one in the White House, y'all.
But that did not stop Tucson native Deja Fox, who came from San Diego to march.
I started fighting for sex education reform in the Tucson Unified School District and only scaled up my work from here, right? I fought for birth control access on a national scale, told Jeff Flake off, and I'm here today in a continuation of that fight.
Protesters marched past the Capitol and the Supreme Court before ending up on the National Mall to text bank, encouraging more people to vote.
Today it's not just about marching. We're also going to be doing a phone text bank, as you see behind us, where there are socially distanced chairs where people can sit down and text bank voters all across the country.
People gave different reasons for coming out, but there was one common theme: make a plan and vote.
Seems like we've reached a precipice and everything's about to collapse, and everyone, myself, anxious, nervous, sad, and this is seems productive and also re-energizing to continue the fight.
Some elements felt like previous marches. People held up signs with words and art important to them, dressed up, wore pink hats, and held pride flags. Pujol Rodriguez says she hopes she doesn't need to do it again this January.
This is not my first march, but I really, really hope it's my last.
We will not allow it.
On Thursday, the Senate Judiciary Committee will vote to move forward with Judge Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. In Washington, Mythili, Cronkite News.
We need to just stop as a nation and think about what's really going on.
It's a sea of white, as almost 250,000 flags line a grass field, each flag representing an American who died from COVID-19.
To help people understand the number, to make sense of it, so that we would not just release it and say it is what it is, but rather we would be inspired to take good care of each other.
This is Suzanne Furstenberg, the artist who created the In America exhibit. She plants the flags and updates a board with the death toll in the country daily.
The hardest part of my day is when we change the numbers.
For Furstenberg, the living are just as important to the process of honoring.
I have created this art, but really it's the people who come, it's the people who add names, it's the people who simply acknowledge the pain of others that really give value and life to this space.
People like the Sneeds, a retired couple from Virginia who visited the art installation at the DC Armory grounds recently.
To see all these flags representing some family's pain is, it's moving.
Out of tens of thousands of flags at this installation, this section right here has over 6,000. That's how many Arizonans have died of COVID-19.
It tears my heart up to see this because of what it represents.
The installation was initially supposed to be here for just 3 weeks, but DC Mayor Muriel Bowser granted an extension until November 30th.
It gives more people a chance to participate in the creation of the art, and it gives us more time to figure out how next to honor all the people who will continue to lose.
It's amazing, and it's very disturbing when you actually come here and you see the flags.
Furstenberg hopes being able to put something like a death toll in visual perspective would.
I think that art such as this can make us stop a minute and think of each other. So to me, that's the value.
In Washington, Mythili, Cronkite News. Hundreds of people gathered first thing in the morning in front of the Supreme Court to pay their respects to the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. People brought flowers, signs, and memories.
She was so invested and so present with us in that moment. And like the delight in her face was just incredible.
Kristen Brandis was describing the look when Ginsburg officiated at her wedding to Bridget McGraw in January 2017.
She said, "Oh, this is such great news. I would be so happy to do this for you."
Not everyone had a personal encounter, but many of the hundreds in line had a story about how Ginsburg affected them personally. Queen Creek resident Samuel Jordan said she inspired his change of career.
RBG is obviously one of the most iconic judges and justices in history. And I went back and I'm going to go study immigration law in the state of Arizona.
Jordan came to D.C. specifically to pay his respects. He joined others lined up, masked and socially distanced for the chance to walk past the steps where Ginsburg's casket was displayed. The day began with a private ceremony inside the court's Great Hall, attended by family and other justices. After that, her casket was brought to the top of the court steps. The mood outside the court was somber and respectful, and people seemed willing to wait for as long as it took. Kim Bates remembers Ginsburg's lifelong work for women's rights.
I was alive when Roe v. Wade was passed, and I was a teenager. And I think people don't understand that that was a key ruling in giving women the ability to control their lives.
But today, political differences were put aside.
I didn't agree with her on a lot of her opinions because I'm a conservative and she was a liberal, but I respected her and she fought a lot of good battles and stood up well for women.
But politics is never far away in Washington.
I think we're in a very precarious moment, and I hope that people are watching, because with her passing, the court, one of the institutions that we count on for fairness, is at risk.
Jordan thinks the Senate should wait to confirm the next justice.
It's the respectful thing to do when somebody of this nature dies. I think you give the time for the country to heal first and foremost, but also you have to, I think, take the proper and not make it a rush decision.
Lesko disagreed, saying she has no doubt Democrats would make the appointment if they were in power. Besides, she said, Trump said he will nominate a woman.
It's fantastic. We need a conservative woman in the Supreme Court. It's a fantastic pick. I'm glad President Trump said it. It's great.
Bridget and Kristen did not share that enthusiasm.
It's a grave loss, and the time in which it's happening couldn't be more challenging.
Viewings will continue till 10 p.m. tonight and tomorrow as well, before Justice Ginsburg is brought to lie in state on Friday. At the Supreme Court, Mythili, Cronkite News.